Hi, my name is Trevor, and this is a story of the time that I auditioned for the X Factor.
It's more than you know.
Oh, a couple little trick-or-treaters out here. It's a little early for Halloween, but your costumes are so cute. Trick-or-treat. Trick-or-treat.
So I'm watching Kevin Hart's documentary on Netflix, and he's from Philadelphia, and so it reminded me of this poem.
Roses are red. We are driving home from Philly.
So what's for dinner tonight, Puff Mama? Chili?
Watching this documentary, it kind of reminds me a lot about my story, and he was talking a lot about, like, when people think of comedy, they only think of the greats, and they don't really see the levels in between, and I'm just like, I remember when I auditioned for the X Factor, I don't know how that correlated in my mind. I remember before 2020, I was so actively into auditioning for shows because I was that dedicated on getting on somebody's stage and singing, because at that time I was just convinced that I was going to be a singer. I was a sophomore in college at the time, and I went to London to visit a friend on spring break. And I think it was like the second to last day that I was there, my friend had to do something for university. He was a photography major, and he had to go in. He was going to be there all day. And so I was just like, okay, well, what can I do for the day? Because I'm not trying to sit up in the house. I don't know what caused me to have the Lizzie McGuire moment, but immediately I looked up the X Factor auditions, and lo and behold, they were having auditions tomorrow. I was just like, oh, cool, wow. I don't know how far Clacton is, because we were on the outskirts of London, and the audition was in Clacton, so I was about like a 2.5 hour train ride. Yeah. I remember taking a train out to Clacton and going to audition. When we're there, we end up standing in a line because it was at this old amusement park. It looked like it was abandoned, but it wasn't abandoned. It was just out of season. I remember I was like, if not the first person, like one of the first people in line, and the local news was there. I was like, oh my God, look at me being Lizzie McGuire on somebody's news channel. Isn't it something that I was on international news before I was on the news here in America? Anyway, the news people, they're in line, they're having people sing. I didn't sing for the news people. I don't remember singing for the news people. At the open call, that was like an in and out process. I was in and out within like 30 minutes. Like, I thought it was going to be an all-day event because here in the States, it's an all-day event. Now, I auditioned for the X Factor when it was in the United States in 2013, and that, oh my gosh. Quick side tangent. I auditioned for the X Factor for season 3 when it was here in the United States. They finally came to my town. Like, they had never come to Long Island for auditions. I usually had to go into New York City. They came to Long Island. So I was like, okay, wow, work. Trenton and I, we auditioned, and we went the day before. So it was originally supposed to be on a Thursday, but because so many people tried out, they had to extend it another day. I was in a play at the time, and I decided to audition versus being in the play, but that was a whole story in itself. When we went to the audition, we got there at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't leave until about, I want to say like 4:30, 5 o'clock that afternoon. We were there for about like 10 so hours, but we were standing outside for like 7 of those 10 hours. I forget how the auditions went. Like, I know that they were filming. A lot of people, we were gated off. Everybody was filming, they were singing. Trenton and I tried to sing, and everybody was like, what? When we finally got inside, like, I don't know what it's about, like, about these auditions, but like when you get inside, things just go so much quicker. Because when you're outside, they hold you for filming. They're trying to do all these things to capture the moment. And I'm like, can we just get on with the day? But when we got inside, it was so interesting how the auditions went. They had these curtains up, but that was before I knew how these auditions worked. I did get a no. I remember in 2017, I showed up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. It's so different in the UK, but I made it so much further than I did here. And we are so cutthroat over here. But in the UK, after the open call that I did in March, I got an email from them saying, okay, we're inviting you to the open call, which I think now, I thought I would have heard back from them like on a personal level, but I got this email saying, we're inviting you to the open call. So I get to the open call, and so I went with my friend, and we stood in line, and at first, this line was backed up. It was at the O2 Arena, and it was backed This line wrapped around this whole building, and it was so many people, so many heads. It was in May, but like May in London is really giving January here weather-wise. It was cold. I thought I looked cute, but I did not. Like, my hair was cute, but then at the time when I was filmed, like, it was all But then we started waiting in this line. We were talking to people. We were like, okay, what are you gonna sing? And I don't remember singing for people that day because it was so cold outside, and I was just focused on like getting this over with so that I can go inside and audition. Every time when I audition, I have this thought that I'm like, oh, you know, I'm only going to be outside for an hour, then I'm going to go inside. But we were out there for 10 hours. 10 hours. And then I got chose for filming. And then I had to separate from my friend. Because I got chosen for filming, I got brought up to the absolute front. And so where they were filming everything, they had this section for people that they selected to be filmed. Then my friend left. He left the site. Like, he left the actual site and went somewhere else. I was there by myself, did not know anybody, but I was talking to people. They were like, oh, you know, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from America. They're like, oh, you came all this way to audition? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm Lizzie McGuire. They had us do, yeah, I have the X Factor, making the X things. I can't do it right now because my arm is holding this. But they were like, oh yeah, no, you have the X Factor, whatever. After the 10 hours, we had to stay outside for an additional hour and film this very outdated site. Like, they had you registering your number. They gave you an empty CD case. This was 2017. Let that sink in. 2017. People weren't using CDs like that. We had streaming was fairly new at that time. Downloading music was still a thing. Like, ain't nobody was downloading CDs like that. But then again, this is the UK, so what do I know about their market? I remember getting the CD, getting my number. I think I was like 0003, but that was not even close to my number. I don't even remember my number. I don't think I have pictures from that number. If I can find it, I'll post it somewhere. I remember we finally got inside, and I was inside for like an hour or two before I auditioned. So being inside was so much faster than being outside. So when I was inside, we had to wait on this line, and then they sat you in sections. And it was like in this holding pen. And then they called your number, whatever your numbers were. It was like the last 3 digits of your section number. And then we got up, we went to go stand on another line. And it was like an amusement park at this point because like people were wrapped around this building just to try to get an audition. When I finally got into the room that they were auditioning, it was a lot like the X Factor in 2013. Except this time I was prepared. My voice was better at this point. And I was in a different place. And I guess for me, like when I'm in a different place, I'm not nervous. When I was in New York, I was nervous because I was auditioning in front of my mom in Trenton, and I was just in a place that I knew. When I auditioned in the UK, I don't think I was nervous. I sang loud, and I was just ready to go. And immediately I got a yes, and then I had to go sign up for the next audition. So I had to go wait on another line and then have a time slot as to when I wanted to go audition. So that audition was on a Saturday. I think it was May 5th. Come on, Cinco de Mayo. Then I had to come back on that Tuesday. And so I went to go sign up for that audition, got my paper, got my slip. I was like, okay, that's it. All right, goodbye. And so I left. I came back that Tuesday, but it was at a totally different location. So now it was at the Tobacco Keys or the Tobacco Dock. I don't know what it's called now, but it was at the Tobacco Dock. And oh my gosh. So I had 2 auditions this day. And so this day went a whole lot quicker. This day I was at the Tobacco Docks. And I think this scene that I'm about to show you was at the Tobacco Docks.
On a Saturday night, everybody's waiting for me to arrive. I got lots of style, check my gold diamond rings. I can go for miles.
Thousands are showing up, all wanting to impress the judges. But have they got what it takes to go the distance? This is the X Factor, so let's find out.
I am it. I have the X Factor. They made me say a lot of things, and I'm just... They made me say, oh, I'm it. I have the X Factor. And at that time, I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't want to be in front of anybody. I just wanted to sit and wait. Because I don't know, I'm an introvert at these things. Like, I didn't want to sit and communicate and talk to people. I just wanted to look out the window. I'm like, oh my God, I'm enjoying this experience. So lo and behold, I'm at the tobacco docks. I don't remember if I got another number or whatever, but I remember just like waiting in this room and everything that they show you in terms of like the auditioning process, like the waiting room and people are looking around. I was in that room. I don't know if I was on camera because I was only in that room for an hour. And then I was online for my second audition. My second audition, I think, was the most intense audition because I sang And I Am Telling You I'm Not Going. And then she asked, do you have anything more contemporary? And I did not at that time because I'm a very old school singer. I love singing things from the 80s, the 90s. I like powerhouse songs. And at the time, there weren't enough powerhouse songs. Like, I know Adele was fairly new, but like everybody was singing Adele. Everybody was singing Valerie. I didn't want to come in and sing Valerie. I told her, I was like, no, I don't, girl. I'm sorry, fam. And then she was like, you know what? I'm going to give you a yes, but you need to come up with something contemporary because they're going to be looking for something. They're looking for something like today. And I was like, okay, thank God. You know, look at God. And so they pulled me to the side. They started interviewing me. I think I told them too much information. At the time, I was at the peak of my reckless era, but I was going through so much at that time and I was just like, bleh. But then again, he wanted to know because I'm from America and he was just like, well, what goes on over there and things like that. So I told him everything. I think I had to sign something. I don't remember at this point, but I had to sign something else and then I had to sit. It was kind of like parent-teacher conference. So you know how like the teachers are inside or whatever, then they have the chairs waiting outside for you to go in. So it was very much like that. And so it was like chairs of 6 and they had you going in like 3 to 4 rooms of producers for the show. I went in and I sang If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. And then they asked for something contemporary. And of course, I didn't prepare because I didn't expect them to. I did not expect them to ask that question. Of course, the audition before told me to prepare and I didn't. Actually, no, I did. But like, I just didn't know what to sing. I remember singing Rolling in the Deep by Adele and I messed up one of the words, but I kept going. Yeah. They were like, okay, thank you. We'll let you know. Did not hear back. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I got so much further than I did in the United States. In the United States, I got the no on the spot. Whereas in the UK, it was like, okay, yeah, no, we'll let you know. Never heard back from them. It was very much LA. Kind of reminded me of the time that I auditioned for American Idol. Now, American Idol, that was quick and easy like that, but that was over a span of months. So I auditioned on video for American Idol. And then the next day I heard from a producer. I went on a Skype interview with them like a couple of days later. And then I ended up auditioning. They liked it. I stood up because I was like, I don't really like sitting down when I sing. But I stood up. I was a bundle of nerves. They liked it. And then my producer reached out and he was just like, I don't remember what he said. He said something, you need to be able to look at the camera. Don't sing with your eyes closed. Something like that. And so I was like, okay. Like the next time I heard from him, he was just like, okay, we're going to prepare you for a Los Angeles audition. Because at the time I was going to school in Las Vegas. Originally, I was set up for New York because I was auditioning in New York. That was like my hometown. So he was like, we're going to set you up in New York for the end of September. And then I told him, I was like, he was like, will that work for you? I said, no, because I'm going to be in Vegas. He was like, oh, okay, let's see what I can do. And then I ended up auditioning in the beginning of September, and that was in Los Angeles. And that was my 3rd day of school, so I had to skip the 3rd day of school to go to Los Angeles. But when I got to I think it was the Fremantle building on Alameda Boulevard, right next to the Walt Disney lot. I remember going to that building. I couldn't find the entrance to that building, but I had flown in that day and the Uber, oh my God, the Uber driver, I thought I was going to be late to that audition because the Uber driver picked up other people and decided to drive all over Los Angeles on the 110 in the morning. I got to the Fremantle building, went up to, I believe it was the 8th floor. And at the time I was getting into the numbers and things like that. I was like, ooh, I'm seeing a lot of 8s and things like that. And so I get to the American Idol offices and immediately, I guess I was so excited or my energy was too much for the woman. She told me to calm down. I was like, I don't remember saying anything, but she was like, oh yeah, okay, calm down. It was so subtle. It was so subtle. I was like, who? Anyway, so they gave me this contract, and basically it was like why do you want to audition for American Idol? Things like that. It's just sign here. I remember reading that contract, and I looked up, and this man was giving me he wasn't giving me a side eye, but he was giving me the eye. Like, he was staring into my soul because I was reading the contracts. First red flag, reach contracts. And so then we went up one more floor, and that's where the auditions were happening. But this audition was so quick. Like, I was in and out within 20 minutes. That day, I auditioned, and I don't remember what I sang for that audition, but it was one British guy in the room, and then it was this other girl. She had red hair and glasses. She was really nice. The British guy, not so much. And so I sang, and he just looked over it. But the one girl, she was liking it. She was like, okay, thank you. You'll hear back from us. And I felt really good about that audition. And then I did not hear back from them. So those were my audition stories. I have so much more, but yeah, no, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go now. I'm going to continue watching this Kevin Hart documentary. So peace in the Middle East. Bye.